Okay. Okay, so we're out of order. I'm going to just go in my order, and you guys will just have to find it.
Whoa.
Yeah. I'm going to.
I would not appreciate that.
Yes. All right. So, for you people taking notes at home, flip over the page and find Greek religion. So, Greek religion, again, affected all aspects of Greek life. Very, very significantly and importantly is that second bullet point: religion was necessary for the well-being of the state. So if things weren't going well, if things, there wasn't rain, or there were typhoons, volcanic eruptions, it was because we were not worshiping the gods correctly. This is the only time that we talk about Mount Olympus, the 12 gods on Mount Olympus, the most important gods represented. Religious festivals were held to honor the gods and goddesses. Built oracles where priests would reveal the future, and the most famous place for that is Delphi. And Delphi was considered like the center of the earth, like, in a really kind of gross description, the belly button of the earth. And that's where oracles would go to get in touch with their oracle side and prophesize about the futures of people. And it, again, was a really important part to have your oracle, or have the oracles read your future and tell you your future. And going to Delphi would be where especially wealthy people or people in positions of power would go to have their oracles read. Greek drama. Greek drama creates Western drama. Almost every single movie, play, book can be traced back to a Greek drama that has already existed. The purpose of Greek drama, in that they are all tragedies. We already talked about Oedipus Rex, right? Stabbing his eyeballs out. That whole idea of good and evil, that the rights of people, the roles of God in life, you didn't go to Greek dramas for a feel-good, warm, fuzzy feeling, right? Don't confuse. I don't know how or why this happens a lot, but a lot of students confuse Shakespeare with Greek drama. We're like 1,000 years apart. I'm not sure how that happens. Greeks write about tragedies. Everything is tragic. Everything is difficult. Everything turns down to good and evil. And a lot of times evil wins, sadly speaking. My favorite part is the writing of history. The writing of history begins with Herodotus and his History of the Persian Wars. So remember all the way back when we first began this, and we were talking about Neolithic and Paleolithic, and I was telling you that those were names that were created to describe. The Greeks wrote those names. This is where we start recording history. This is what we know as history being recorded. And Herodotus tells us that history should read like a story. It should be a story. Many considered Thucydides the greatest historian of the ancient world. Thucydides explained events by human causes. So why did the Greeks win the war over the Persians? Not divine intervention of the gods, not because we left the gods a great sacrifice, but Thucydides will say This is the reason we won the war. This is the strategy that allowed us to win the war. These are the mistakes that the Persians made that allowed us to win the war. And he's going to emphasize facts. And one of the ways that he's going to emphasize these facts is by talking to people that were actually at that event and recording their history. We call that an oral narrative. And that begins how we think and record history. History is still made up of personal narratives. What happened? What did you see? What did you feel like? How did this impact you? Still, again, a really important part of studying history. Historians put much more emphasis on primary sources, meaning written by people who saw this event, than they do anything else. Our textbook is called a secondary source, meaning a whole lot of people put thoughts into writing it. Your textbook in the textbooks that the State Department of Indiana, Education Department of Indiana put on their list have really no biases. They're written for high school kids. But when you get into college, my kids that are in AP Euro and APUSH, their textbooks, that writer has a certain point of view that they get across. And it's, again, an important part of history. But Thucydides said we should be looking at the personal experiences of these people. Classical ideas of Greek art. Standards of classical Greek art dominate the Western art world. In the 21st century, our idea of what art is still based on the Greek. It's still based on how the Greeks created art, most importantly, sculpture. When we get to the Renaissance, the rebirth of all things Greek, they're going to be making those same marble sculptures. What's really interesting and really important, I think, with science and history is that science has taken a look at many of those statues that we thought were just marble and have found that many of them were painted and painted with really, really bright colors. Very vivid, bright colors. That's one of the cool things about science being able to help. Classical Greek art's chief subject was the ideal perfect human being. Ideal. No pudgies, no rounded people. We're talking sculpted, awesome looking people. Their architecture, temples like the Parthenon, is dedicated to Athena. Those, again, are part of honoring the gods, ensuring that our city-state remains viable, and we do that by building things like the Parthenon. All right, now we're going to go to the challenge of Persia. So remember again, now flip back, people, thank you. Remember again, I've been telling you the difficulty of these first early chapters that we're in is all of this stuff is happening at the same time. Nothing is happening one chapter at a time in history. That's not the way history works. So while we have been building up these city-states, big old giant Persia has been building that big giant empire under Cyrus and his son Darius. Under Cyrus, these Ionian Greek cities will be revolting. And so Darius seeks revenge. He says, I am going to tell you, you little Ion islands coming up against the Persian Empire and the might, I am going to attack all these people. So in 409 BCE, the Persians are going to land on Marathon, which just happens to be 26 miles from Athens. Anybody getting a connection? This is my favorite part of the story. If you don't know how many miles is in a marathon, it's 26. A small number of Athenian army will beat the Persians. This is earth-shaking. These little teeny island Athenian army people have defeated the Persian in the Battle of Marathon. And so they send somebody. Wait, let me go back. Finish this story. So does anybody know I'm sorry. You don't have to get mad. Does anybody know the end of the story? So one of the members of the Athenian army that defeats the Persian runs those 26 miles. to tell them, hey, guess what? We just defeated the Persians. And then what happens to him? He dies. Which then says running equals death. Don't do it. Running equals death. That's the real story. He runs there. He tells them, we've defeated the Persians, and then has a heart attack and then dies. So you get that? Paul, running equals death? Okay. That's a very good excuse to not participate in cross-country sports. Running equals death. Now you can pick up your pencil, Alex. Okay, Darius is going to die. And then Xerxes is going to become the Persian king. Xerxes wants revenge. Xerxes says, I am going to come after you. Athens says, we got to help ourselves. The only way we can do that is to build this big, powerful navy. We can't allow them to create an amphibious assault and allow them to land in Athens. Xerxes says, you build a navy, I'll build a bigger one. He has an army of 150,000 troops. That is absolutely incredible. That is an enormous amount of men. Currently speaking, in the United States Army active duty, we maybe have 250,000 men in our whole active duty army. Xerxes brings, for one battle, 150,000. That is an incredible. What?
Did they absolutely dominate? Like, did they destroy the other people?
They're getting ready to. This is the Battle of Thermopylae. They bring 700 ships. Until we get to D-Day, there has not been any. And I think this D-Day counts a lot of things that aren't ships. These are all big old ships. 700 of them.
Just for $100?
Because he's mad.
Because
he's mad. The Greeks are going to hold off at the Battle of Thermopylae for 2 days. So this is the story of the 300. And again, because I love military history, here we go. So the Battle of Thermopylae takes place on a beach. And this is a beach like many beaches that are around the world that people don't go to. It's a short beach and then cliffs. So the Battle of Thermopylae takes place on this very narrow patch of beach sand with a big giant cliff to one side. So the Persians come on, and we are fighting like this. We're just the first 3 rows of men fight. We exhaust ourselves, and I'm not saying that we literally blow a whistle, but at some point in the battle, we call it off. Persians go this way, Greeks retreat back, we take care of our wounded, we recover, we rest, at an agreed upon time again, we come together and we fight. I know, it's weird, that's how battles are. They're not like what you see in TV. They're agreed upon. At this time, we're going to come back. We fight again, we retreat, we go get our wounded, we come back. We do that for 2 days. 2 days. At issue is that the Persians don't know where they are. They can't get off this beachhead. For the Greeks, we know all of the ways around the hills. We know all of them. But we also need help. So this is where the Athenians go to the Persians and say, help us out. We need you. We need your warrior battle skills. They're going to send 300. 300 Spartans is not a lot when we're talking 9,000 men and 1,500 men. The Spartans don't send that many because they don't want to commit their men to what they see as a lost cause, right? Because what are the Persians going to do? The Spartans going to do? They have to fight till they die or they win. And so they're not going to lose a lot of their men. They sent 300. So we had that fight. In the meantime, a Greek trader tells them, the Persians, how to get a path around and then do what is the worst for any army is to be outflanked. So what happens is, while the Persians are engaging those Greeks on this battle of this sand, the Persians are going to, with the help of that Greek that tells them where a path through and up the cliff is. They're going to go up and around and then come on the other side and then squeeze the Greeks in. That's called being outflanked. It is the worst thing that any military unit can have to them. Every military army trains so that they're not outflanked. And now that you know that word, if you listen and you watch military movies and in battle scenes, you hear them yelling that all the time. We're about to be outflanked, or we're going to outflank. That's the prime source, is to cut them in two so that they're surrounded. And so as a result of this, Athens is going to abandon their city. We have to leave. Athens will pull back, and they will form their largest navy ever, and then go and defeat the Persians. So that, again, is the best part of this story, which leads us into the golden age of Athens. So when we think about this word golden age, just like we did with our middle kingdom of Egypt, it's when everything is firing on all cylinders. Culturally, Greek is expanding. Politically, Athens is expanding. I meant Athens, not Greece. Economically, Athens is expanding. And so after the Persian Wars, the golden age of Athens begins under Pericles. At this point, they start paying men to become on this council, recognizing that they give up their wages to participate. Begin trial by jury with all citizens as jurors. We could vote to ostracize a citizen with one vote of the majority, and Athens becomes that cultural center of Greece. So after the Greek city-states beat Persia, we have this giant rise of Athens. And somebody is going to get jealous. Anybody want to guess who? Sparta. Sparta's going to get jealous. Sparta decides to form this league, think like Justice League, after the Persian War. It's called the Danelian League. And they say, you know what? We need to form this alliance to protect ourselves should Persia rise up again. We can't count on Sparta. They didn't help us. And so Athens is going to form the Danelian League. And Athens is going to gain great power, but also a whole lot of money. And again, it's going to make Sparta jealous. Sparta says, you got a league? We're going to have a league. And we're going to name ours the Peloponnesian League. And as you can well imagine, it doesn't take too long for war to break out between those two city-states, between Athens and Sparta, between the Danelian League and the Peloponnesian League. And this war is going to break out between those two and spread everywhere. Everybody's going to have to pick a side. Everybody's going to have to take part. And it is a war that lasts 27 years. That's devastating. So as a female, I'm going to watch my father go to war. I'm going to watch my husband go to war. And then I'm going to watch my son go to war. 3 generations will participate in this war. I need you to think of how bad you must hate another group of people to fight them for 27 years. That's a lot of hatred. Now, we'll have lulls in between. There'll be 2 or 3 years, 5 years in between. But for 27 years, this intense hatred of these two city-states causes them to fight, kill lots of their men, destroy some of their economy, and for one group, make a pact with the devil. Athens had the superior navy, but couldn't use it because Sparta's inland. A navy does not do you any good when you're fighting somebody on land. Sparta had the superior army, which allowed it to march into Athens. So if you remember that picture I showed at the very beginning talking about the Acropolis and explain that big top, that's where everybody goes. Pericles takes everybody into their walled city to try to last out the Spartan siege. They can't. And so Sparta turns to the enemy, Persia, and says, hey, come help us defeat our enemy, Athens, which is a really bad thing. Because while all this is going on, there's this other great giant power rising up in Macedonia. And that person would be Alex the Great, which is going to crush them all. This war of 27 years is what destroys Greece. This is the end of Greece. There will be no other time in history that Greece will rise up again. And never, never. For the next 1,000 years, Greece has destroyed itself because of these 27 years of battle and war against each other. It's a 27-year civil war is what it is. The United States fights a civil war for not about 4 years. It devastates our country. It destroys our country for 4 years. So this is what our assignment is about today, that you will work on today and tomorrow. Don't you like that segue? Assignment. Our assignment has to do with the idea of people continuing to support a war for 30 years. So it is the Peloponnesian War propaganda poster. Propaganda. Does propaganda have to be true? No, it does not. That is one of the important parts of this propaganda idea, is that it does not have to be true. Where are you at? Okay. Let's go this way. All right. So, fighting a war for 30 years takes a toll on its nation. How do you keep men agreeing to fight in this war? Your country supporting this war for 30 years. So half of you are going to be in Athens, half of you are going to be Sparta. You have been hired by the Athenian government to create a propaganda poster to support the Peloponnesian War effort. Propaganda is, according to the online Webster Dictionary, the spreading of ideas, information, or rumor for the purpose of helping or injuring an institution, a cause, or a person. Ideas, facts, or allegations spread deliberately to further one's cause or to damage the opposing cause. So propaganda is one of two things. I'm either doing something to help myself or I'm doing something to hurt the other side. Your poster should reflect reasons why Athens should continue to fight, reasons why Athens is fighting, and why Athens should continue to war against the Spartans. Now, first thing first, you guys are my highly achieving people, are checklist people. That does not mean you need to do check that there's and that there. Your poster, one thing, could do all of those things at once. Does that make sense? And I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. You don't need something that says, here's why we fight, and here's why we should continue to fight, and here's why. You can do it in one poster. That's usually what posters are. It's an image that gets all of this, and I'm going to give you an image so that you know what it is. Your poster should be colorful. It has to have color. Not that I'm a coloring person, but it is a propaganda poster, and it has to draw your attention. Contain information to encourage your nation to continue to fight and be accurate. So I'm going to use one thing to promote the same cause for Athens and Sparta. And I'm using this one, so you cannot. Do not use this. You will get a 0 if you use my idea. I'm going to go back because I don't want you to draw pictures of this because it's awful. I'm going to go back to, remember when everyone had to stand up, and if you weren't, we were going to throw you off the cliff if we lived in Sparta? I'm going to talk about throwing babies off a cliff. Okay? You cannot use that, Ty. You can't use babies throwing it. You can use other things close to it, but not babies. So if I am Athens and I want us to continue to fight. That would be my slogan. Do you want to live under a regime that throws babies off of a cliff? Boom. I've done everything. Why do I keep fighting? Because I can't. I don't want. So the flip side of that, I'm Sparta, and I want us to keep fighting. Do you want to live in a city-state that keeps sickly, underdeveloped children that will deplete our gene pool? Spartans must stand firm. Bad babies not allowed. Okay? Same topic. I used it in a variety of ways. Sorry, Ty. I know. I get that one off the table straight away, but you can use it without throwing the babies off the edge. You don't know which side you're going to get. Yeah, you don't know yet. Okay? So, I am going to, this is one of the few things that we're doing on paper. So we haven't done stuff on paper. Have we done stuff on paper yet? Oh, our mind maps. Our mind maps. So this will be another one of those. I have colored pencils up here. But if you, hey people, if you use a box of these colored pencils, please give it to me so it can go in my quarantine. So my last group of people that used this was my U.S. history kids about 2 weeks ago. So they have been quarantined for 2 weeks. When I hand you your paper, I will tell you what you are and hand that to you.
If I keep on my bases, he said, I'm just going
Middle name 2 fingers.
Oh, no.
Ty, 2 fingers, Thompson. Thompson? No, I know.
That is so funny, dude. You are hilarious.
Oh.
I had to fill this whole. I got the weak ones, dude. I got ask for babies. I got charged.
What did you say?
You can still use that, but use it at the opposite.
Just use their heads.
Yeah.
So you can still take that same thought.
Just use it in a different way.
Yeah, not throw them off. Yes.
So we can't say that we're forward from maybe, but you live in an area where you can't.
No, no babies.
No.
Babies are, clip throwing babies off.
Dang it.
Off.
Yeah.
No, man.
Favorite part.
Nothing about throwing babies.
Dang it.
Or infants.
What about tossing?
Nothing is going over a cliff.
Dang it. You can't.
Hey people, if you look at Canvas, because you guys are my 4th hour class and you will not be here with me on Thursday, and it says this is due at the beginning of class on Thursday, you need to get that assignment to me on Thursday. Okay? So does that make sense? You need to be responsible. Bring your assignment in and turn it in. You guys should be finished with whatever you're doing by 4th hour. You can sit in your class 4th hour And then right after that, when you guys go to lunch, 4th hour, because you're going to go to lunch by yourself, you can do one of two things. Slide it under my door or just stack it in front of my door. But it has to be turned in on Thursday. All right? Sometime before you leave Thursday, your poster needs to be turned in. Okay? Everybody got that? Okay. We will not have a new assignment on Wednesday, and you guys will not have an assignment for me on Thursday, unless I get told different. As of now, we have not been told that we have to put assignments for you guys because you have something that you're doing with your ACT class. So unless I'm told to do it, we don't have anything. Yes,
I won't be here on Friday, so we are all.
it'll be on Canvas.
I don't think I'm gonna be here Monday.
What, Friday?
Monday.
Monday?
Yeah.
It'll be on Canvas, sweetie. Thank you for telling me.
I was thinking whenever you said you wasn't gonna be here, I was like, oh, I'm not gonna be here Monday, so I wanted to wait.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure I'm not gonna. I'm not. I know I have an eye appointment in Indy, but I don't know how.
Okay.
long it's gonna take.
Is it just a regular eye appointment?
I think so.
This pure genius. What are you doing? I don't know. What are you doing? Absolutely not.
I want to say 6 to the gym. There's a lot of gyms.
Oh yeah.